Hi, I'm Dre. I want to welcome you to our fifth and final episode within our series of building a winner's mindset. I hope you've been enjoying each of them. I hope you've been enacting some of these strategies and that you're seeing an impact immediately. If you are, I would always love to share some of the stories with me. I really like to know that I'm adding value to your life. Now, we've talked about everything from persuasion to building confidence to problem solving to being content, and we're going to bring it all together with this episode. This episode, we're going to focus on the power of independent thinking. Now, this is something that is actually very close to me. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I believe that a lot of the problems that you see in the world where people have issues with each other, where people are being violent, and there's like terrorism, and then there's like issues with different races, all these problems I believe build up to the fact that we lack independent thinking. That independent thinking is a dying breed of people. And there's a story that Tom O'Leary has where he talks about like this 10-year-old, this classroom of 10-year-olds, and they ask them, how do we fix the problem of kids crossing a busy street? We want to make sure they stay safe. Most of the kids raised their hands and said very conventional things, such as, let's put speed limits in, let's have a crossing guard, let's build an overpass, and etc., etc., etc. But one kid raised their hand and they said, let's sell all the properties, close down the schools, and move all the classrooms online. Now, the teacher was expecting the conventional answers and responded accordingly, but the teacher wasn't expecting the unconventional answer, and the fellow classmates were making fun of this kid. And as a result, the likelihood of that kid sharing another independent thought diminishes greatly, and it could be the death of another independent thinker. Now, these stories are vast and wide. We all have done something that has been against the norm, and more times than not, it has not been received well. And that ends up creating our experiences and it creates our beliefs and our mindset. And as a result, we end up saying, you know what, I'm not going to say anything next time, or I'm going to say what I think everybody else is thinking. But I want to make sure that you understand a lot of the abilities that we have to impact and create the life that we want when we're trying to become the champion of our dream life. It has a lot to do with your ability to independently think. And you're going to find that independent thinking is free thinking, and I desire for everyone to be free. And you're going to find that that is not something that just helps you in your life, and it will, but it's also something that helps the entire world. I am not exaggerating when I say if people were able to stop listening to conventional wisdom, we would all be doing much better. Because conventional wisdom is anything that you hear on the TV where they're letting you know that this group is at fault for this one. They use certain words to define certain groups where we can't use terrorists and racists and different religions and races, where it ends up creating this paradigm where people don't like each other. And a lot of the times people don't like people that they have little to no information about. It is just the experiences that they are told on TV. And I believe that we'll go over 5 strategies that will help you to free that independent thinker inside of you. And I think that it's going to be very beneficial. Now, because it's a slightly deeper topic, this is like your spoiler alert. Like if you do not want to go deep as I've just started peeling the onion off, then this is the time for you just to leave. And I understand because, as I mentioned in the story, independent thinking is frowned upon. It is something that we innately discourage, and it's not necessarily that anyone has animosity towards anyone. Like, I don't think you have a personal issue with me. I think what ends up happening a lot of the time is we're reflecting different issues that we have within our own life. Like if someone was to say something that you're very passionate about doesn't matter, you're going to respond very negatively to that. So if your beliefs are built on some conventional wisdom, then when someone shares something where they say those beliefs are not based in a sound reality, then it's very natural that that is discouraging and something that may create a different reaction than I want. I want everyone to know that I'm coming from a place of love, and I want everyone to understand that my goal is to be your life coach and mentor of change, and the best way I can do it is to be completely honest and direct with you. And so without further ado, if you're still here, then I'm thankful that you are, let us go ahead and get started, and we'll talk about the 5 strategies. To set the foundation, I want to talk about the 5 benefits, or maybe not 5, but just some of the benefits of being an independent thinker. You'll find that studies show that they have a higher performance, that they seek the truth. And the reason that they have better performance and better productivity is very simple. If you are an independent thinker and you start a new job, well, what are you going to do? You're going to ask a lot of questions. And when you ask a lot of questions, you're going to have a better understanding. Because you're not trying to figure out how things have been done so you can keep doing them. You're trying to figure out why things are being done and whether that makes sense. And there's a huge difference you'll find in anyone who is an independent thinker. They already understand that. Now, it may rub some people the wrong way, right? Like, you're new here. How are you going to say we should do it this way when we've done it that way for 20 years and we built a great company? That is not an issue that they have with you personally. It's just the way that they are perceiving your questions. They think you're challenging their authority. You'll also find that independent thinkers have an increased motivation and a higher self-confidence that is independent of the opinions of others. And the reason is their experiences is when they have expressed some of their concerns and thoughts, that even though it may not be received well in the beginning stages, when we get to the end, everyone is very appreciative for your honesty, right? Like, we think we like yes people until something goes wrong. And then we need analytical thinkers. And you will find that independent thinkers are analytical and they are strategic in nature because they are gathering this information. You'll also find that they have a higher self-awareness. They understand their limitations and they spend a good amount of time trying to understand how they can move beyond their limitations. And if any of these benefits sound interesting to you, or are parts that you have that maybe you want to boost more, parts that you're lacking and maybe you want to add, then you'll want to listen to the 5 strategies that we'll go over starting now. First and foremost, you're going to want to turn off the programming. As I mentioned, the conventional wisdom that you see on TV is going to be regurgitated, poll tested, and information that they understand will drive a certain response, and it goes very well with their core demographic. What that means is if you find yourself listening or watching the media, then you already understand that maybe you've seen like some pundit that was coming on and they're supposed to be asked the hard questions. And then what ends up happening? Well, the interviewer asks the questions and the pundit doesn't answer them. The pundit pivots, right? And what that is they simply say, well, I didn't come here to talk about that, or my constituents don't care about that, and this is what they care about. And so they talk about the talking points that they wanted. And then this dance goes on for a few minutes, and then the person leaves, and then the interviewer brings on a panel. And then the panel continues speculating on the lack of information that you received, and they try to explain why this lack of information is actually real information. But what you're actually watching is just people sharing previously made opinions, and none of the information that has been given has changed anything. And I find that the new uninformed is ill-informed or misinformed. And if you want to free yourself and think for yourself, then you're going to have to limit the amount of conventional wisdom that you allow yourself to absorb. I mean, just think for a moment about those people that like climbed a fence at the zoo and went into a tiger cage. And then they were killed subsequently, but why did they go into the tiger cage in the first place? Because all the experiences they have absorbed to that point made them believe that the tiger was someone that they could tame or communicate with or reason with. They did not have the healthy fear that we should all have of a tiger. Maybe they saw tigers at the zoo, or maybe they saw tigers at a circus, or maybe they were just watching movies with their kids. Whatever it was, they had absorbed enough information that they thought that they could be safe in a cage with a tiger. And while you may be like, well, who would ever do that? I want you to take a second and think about some of the beliefs that you have that are reinforced by what you watch on TV that are just as outside of reality as the person climbing a cage to get in with a tiger. Because that is what I'm trying to tell you. You have to free yourself from this. You cannot watch that programming and still think that you have the ability to think independently. The information you absorb has an impact on you. And that leads us into number 2, where you want to immerse yourself in experiences that contradict your current beliefs. And first and foremost, the goal of this is not to create new beliefs. It is to make sure you understand the beliefs that you have and whether they make sense. Like, you just want to expose yourself to new experiences. One of the things I did when I was pursuing my master's in biblical studies is we would take a passage of scripture and we would see like, okay, this was written in this time, this was written by this person, and then we would have the side where I would agree with that or I disagree with that. And you would spend 20 minutes researching and debunking the fact that you disagree with that statement. And then you would switch and spend 20 minutes arguing why you agree and looking for information that supports that statement. And you'll find that when you do that, if you research anything, you will find that there is a ton of information on both sides of the argument. And I'm not exaggerating when I say any belief that you have, you can find something that supports it and something that disproves it. You can find studies, you can find scientific research that supports it and disproves it. And what I want you to understand is a lot of your beliefs, understand that they are emotionally and experience driven, and they're not necessarily fact driven. And that's because your beliefs are made of 3 things. Number 1 is your values, and that's just whatever you hold in a high esteem. If that is your job, your political views, your religion, your family, your loved ones, whatever that is, whatever you hold in high esteem. Number two, it is going to be what you know. And this would just be the things that you have understood to be true. Maybe you've experienced it firsthand. And some of these things may not necessarily be true. They're just true in that particular instance, but that is a completely different conversation. And number three is your prejudices and your preferences. And the good news is we all have them, or maybe the bad news is we all have them, but it's just things that you believe that are not backed by fact at all. And so, as you create experiences in your life, these three things are going to be in constant flux and they're going to shift the way that you interpret events and information. The best thing that you can do is to expose yourself to new ones so that you're always reevaluating whether they should be that way. And one of the downfalls I find in social media is the way that the algorithm works. When you click something that you like, it then shows you four more articles that are exactly like that article. And it ends up creating the issue where you're down in this rabbit hole and you become to believe that it is like an epidemic. It's not that that one thing happened, it's that it happened like 15 times. And when you're saying, okay, well, there's like 7 billion people in the world, so if something happens less than 1% of the time, then that's still going to be thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of articles. So people lose the perception. And we'll talk at the end about what I have as my 10% rule, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Number three is you just want to exercise your creativity. Think of your life as a blank canvas, and you are giving yourself the ability to paint it however you would like. And do not allow the opinions of others, do not allow your embarrassment, your fears, and your self-doubt to influence the way you paint it. Just paint the way that you want to paint it if no one was looking. It is an absolutely beautiful artwork. You just have to allow yourself to make it. The best way to be you is to be you. And I've said some variation of that, but I really believe that, and I think you have to focus on that. A lot of the fact that we lose our independent thinking is because we all want to feel secure. And the best way to feel secure is to be in your comfort zone. The problem is if you never expand your comfort zone, then you never change the beliefs that you've had. And then some of those beliefs may be from like childhood and they may be exaggerated or early adulthood. But the point I'm making is some of those beliefs are dated and they're not helping you, they're hurting you. They become almost fears and phobias that are keeping you from becoming the champion of your life. And I just want you to take the time to reevaluate those and give yourself the freedom to explore your life. If you have a suggestion at a meeting, raise your hand and share it. If you want to take a lead on a project, but you're not sure if you can manage the people, take a lead on the project and figure the rest out later. Do not hinder your ability to grow. Number four is you want to mix it up and try new things. And that very simply is take different routes, hang out with different people, go to different restaurants, order different food, just shake it up, mix it up a little bit. You're going to find that a lot of the experiences that you have, that you continue to do, are habits that you find no value in today. You just do them because they're habits. I know when I went to Nigeria, it changed my perspective on a lot of my life. It changed the way that I measured success. I saw people that were waking up earlier than me, going to sleep later than me, working entire days, and they had little to hope for. But they were still happy, they were still content, and they were still driven. I find that a lot of the times if we don't have certain reassurances, we're not as driven. But that is not the way it should be. Ideally, we'll be able to build a certain repertoire of experiences where we are able to bounce back much easier. And so my experiences are similar that I know other people, they take their children on like mission trips to different countries. They do things. I know some people that do like soup kitchens, or they go to like the shelters and they volunteer. These experiences will change the way that you perceive your life. Because we get in our like Debbie Downer phase where we really think that we're having like the worst week ever. And then if you just step slightly outside of your box and expand the scope, you find that there are actually people hurting. Like there is genuine problems. And not to say that you don't have problems, but just to say that there are people having worse problems and they're reacting much better than you. And that's just been the experiences that I have dealt with, and it has helped me dramatically. And number five, you want to be an inquisitive person. I'm not telling you to be a pessimist, but I am telling you to be a little skeptical of conventional and common thought. You're going to find that there is a lot of stuff that is being portrayed out there that is simply not true or beneficial to you. I have what is called the 10% rule. And within this rule, I believe that less than 10% of any group is being negatively portrayed and magnified to the point that people believe that they represent the 90%. And then we create our beliefs and our experiences and our reactions off of that. But the problem is we only notice this within groups that we are a part of. So what I'm saying is, instead of everybody defending the fact that a group that they're a part of, that less than 10% is actually being concentrated on, Instead, we should each stop focusing on other people's less than 10%. We focus on what we can control, and that will create the results that we want in our life, and that will create the positive results that we want in the entire world. And what I'm getting at is, I don't believe that every cop is killing civilians. I don't believe that every Muslim is a terrorist. And I don't believe that every black is a gang member. And I don't believe every white is a racist. I don't believe that every CEO is money driven and like will do anything for a buck. But that is what you see constantly poured into you if you watch news on a regular basis. These thoughts, like if you think of some of the pundits, there are literally people out there that are mad every time they push go on the recorder because that is the persona that they want. They want you to understand that they are upset about some less than 10% group and they want you to be mad too. Now think about that for a second. You're watching something where someone is upset. How do you think that impacts your emotions? It will impact them negatively. And again, it's less than 10% when you focus on this. And then when you go into the other half, the way that each of these groups are portrayed, it's downright lying, right? So most people understand that they don't trust the news, but then if it's something that you agree with, you quote the news. And I'm saying that if you don't trust the news, don't trust the news all the way there. Don't go halfway where I don't trust it when they talk about me. No, don't trust it when they talk about other people. So for example, I live in Jackson. Only just a few days ago, there was a shooting. And the murderer killed multiple people in a Madden tournament. Now, if you take this exact event, if the person is of a particular religion or race, it will change the fact that they would be called a gunman or a terrorist or a thug. And then we move on and we talk about, okay, well, how does the narrative change? Well, when they use the word thug, then they talk about single parent households and they talk about poverty and education. And when you use the word terrorist, you then talk about religion, you talk about tolerance, and you talk about the overall impact of immigration. When you use the word gunman, it's usually a slightly different conversation. More times than not, it goes into a mental health discussion. And you'll find that the pictures that they find of the person matches the narrative that they want to show. If they go the mental health route, they usually find the craziest picture that you'll ever find of that person. I mean, their eyes look bulgy, they look like they are not there. Where everybody is like, how did that person get a gun? That person's clearly ill. Well, we don't know what they look like outside of that one picture. And then the same is true whenever you use the word terrorist. More times than not, they end up showing someone with like a turban or some sort of like an outfit or a mosque image or something like that. And then when you use the word thug, you usually find images where the person has like gold teeth or they're wearing like hip hop apparel or they're just holding like guns or something like that. And they're playing the same less than 10%, but I'm telling you guys, if we all celebrated the 90%, you would see a drastic change in your life and the world around you. The problem is we only know when they're focusing on less than 10% if it's a group that we're a part of. It's just something that you have to train yourself that the change you want to see in the world, you have to be that change before it happens back to you. And so as I mentioned, I told you we'd go a little bit deeper, so I hope that everyone who did watch it, that everybody's okay. I hope it wasn't that bad. I do know that it will create different emotions, different thoughts, but I also know that my goal was to be fair. And I hope that you can see that. And if you want to continue the discussion, I'm always enjoying that. But remember, the goal is for you to become the champion of your dream life. I am your life coach and mentor change, and I'm telling you that if you want to free yourself from the life that you currently have, you have to free yourself from the information that you are currently absorbing. Again, I'm always thankful for our time together. If you want to have a free 30-minute coaching call with me, go to forecasthope.com. If you are interested in changing your life, most people want to change something about their life, but they are discouraged by self-doubt and their fears. I created You Forecast Hope to help you accomplish your goals and resolutions so you can become the champion of your dream life. I invite you to go to forecasthope.com where you can try it out for free for 2 weeks. I'm always thankful for our time together. Continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your dream life.